We are talking about a future on how ordinary people may eventually participate in real-world wealth generation through blockchain technology. Today we are talking about the vision surrounding Unity token and the proposed tokenization of a massive tourism and infrastructure ecosystem that is connected to Indonesia near the famous Mandalika International Street Circuit. And honestly, when I first had these discussions around this project, I immediately realized this was not the typical crypto conversations we always hear every single day. Because most projects in crypto speak about price. But then this one is discussing about islands, it is discussing about tourism, it is talking about hotels, it is talking about infrastructure, they are talking about marinas, they are talking about transportation systems, real estate, global investment, and humanitarian development. That changes the entire conversation. And today I want to explain why this matters, how tokenization could reshape ownership globally, how infrastructure generates sustainable wealth, and why Indonesia is strategically important, and also why humanitarian blockchains like this one matters. And lastly, why I believe this could become generational infrastructure if properly executed. Now, before we dive deep into this entire conversation, I want to speak honestly from my own experience. Many of you listening know how my journey was before now. I entered crypto like millions of ordinary people around the world. I believed in financial freedom. I believed blockchain could change lives. But over time, I also witnessed the dark side of this industry. I saw hype destroy communities. I saw projects collapse. I saw families lose money. I saw speculation become more important than humanity. And after years of watching this industry evolve, I reached a point where I started asking myself one simple question. What is blockchain actually supposed to become? Is it only a giant casino? Or it can become real infrastructure for the future world economy? That question, it is changing how I analyze projects today, because I no longer look at only hype, but I also look at utility, I look at infrastructure, I look at sustainability, I look at economic activity, the partnership around, and whether something actually improves lives. And this is important. This is why Indonesia discussion immediately stood out for me, because this is not just another token launch, but this is blockchain attempting to connect itself directly to tourism economies, to physical infrastructure, to international investment, to real-world assets, and long-term wealth generation. And honestly, that may be where the future of blockchain is heading. I want us to look at this carefully. According to the broader discussions surrounding the project, the vision involves the tokenization of a massive tourism and infrastructure ecosystem that is near Mandalika International Street Circuit in Indonesia. Think about that for a second. An actual physical development ecosystem that is connected to beachfront resort, that is connected to luxury hotels, that is connected to entertainment venues, tourism infrastructure, shopping districts, transportation systems, water attractions, marinas, and international event tourism. This is not some imaginary metaverse land, but this is real-world infrastructure. People can physically visit it. Business can operate there. Tourists can spend money there. Workers can earn income there. Families can build livelihoods there. This is where blockchain becomes connected to the real world economy. And this is a massive shift. One thing that most ordinary people still do not fully understand is how important tokenization may become globally. Because historically, large-scale developments like islands, resorts, infrastructure projects, luxury real estate, tourism ecosystems, they were usually accessible only to billionaires, to institutions, to governments, to investment funds, and ultra-wealthy individuals. Ordinary people were excluded. Ordinary people like us, we were excluded. Ordinary people like me, we were excluded. Ordinary people like you listening right now, you were excluded. But blockchain changes the participation model. It is changing the participation model. Tokenization creates the possibility for digital participation connected to real-world assets. And this is where things become revolutionary, because suddenly blockchain is no longer only about digital speculation, but it becomes connected to infrastructure participation, to ownership exposure, to economic ecosystems, to tourism growth, to real revenue generating systems. And that is completely different. This is a very different category from meme coins or meme token economies. Now, this is where things become extremely important. People always ask, how does infrastructure tokenization actually generate wealth? This is simple. Real infrastructure produces real economic activity, and real economic activity creates sustainable revenue systems. Let me break this down carefully. Imagine this ecosystem is fully operational. You have hotels receiving international guests. You have resorts generating bookings. We have tourism companies operating daily. You have restaurants serving visitors food, drinks on a daily. You have marinas hosting luxury tourism and hotel rooms for common people. You have events attracting international audiences. You have transportation businesses moving people around. You have retail stores operating inside tourism districts. Every one of these systems generates economic activity. Hotels generate revenue daily. Tourism creates spending. Businesses pay workers. Workers support local economies. Suppliers get contracts. Construction companies gain opportunities. Local merchants benefit from tourism traffic. Transportation systems expand. This creates an entire economic engine. This creates an entire economic engine. Now, imagine portions of that ecosystem connected to tokenized participation structures through blockchain infrastructure. Those portions of that ecosystem are connected to tokenized participation. Suddenly, blockchain is linked directly to real businesses activity, to real tourism, to real infrastructure, and real economic growth. That creates something far more sustainable than hype-driven speculation. Now, here is the part that personally interests me the most. The humanitarian angle of it. Because when infrastructure succeeds, communities benefit. Think about what happens when billion-dollar tourism ecosystems expand. You create construction jobs, you create hospitality jobs, you create transportation jobs, retail opportunities, technology positions, local business growth, and supplier contracts, educational opportunities. Entire local economies can transform. This is why infrastructure matters so much. Now, according to the broader humanitarian vision surrounding Unity token, part of the larger goal appears connected to using infrastructure-driven wealth generation for humanitarian development and community impact. Get all funds, get all this money collected from this entire multi-billion infrastructure. Then help people around the world, in Indonesia, in Nigeria, in India, in Philippines, in Kenya, in Malawi, in Uganda. That is important because the future of blockchain may depend on, it may depend on whether these systems can improve ordinary lives. Looking at Indonesia, this is one of the fastest growing economies in Southeast Asia. It already has strong tourism infrastructure. It already have international visibility, growing digital adoption, expanding investment interest, and massive economic potential. The presence of the Mandalika International Street Circuit already positions the region as an international tourism destination connected to MotoGP events and global entertainment. That matters enormously because tourism is one of the most powerful economic engines in the world. Millions of visitors generate hotel revenue. Millions of visitors generate transportation spending, entertainment spending, retail activity, business investment, and infrastructure expansion. Now, combine all that with blockchain-powered tokenization systems. Suddenly, Indonesia becomes part of one of the biggest emerging sectors in digital finance, in real-world asset tokenization. Now, many people will ask why Unity token is suitable for this. Why Unity token is suitable for this? And honestly, I think the answer comes down to the vision. Because the broader humanitarian and infrastructure discussions surrounding Unity token are not centered purely around speculation, but the ecosystem discussions are constantly involved on infrastructure, on development, on participation, on education, on renewable systems, on financial inclusion, on humanitarian impact. That is important. Because tokenized infrastructure ecosystems, they require long-term thinking. You cannot build billion-dollar tourism ecosystems with the short-term hype mentality. You cannot, because you need partners, you need partnerships, you need governance, you need sustainability, you need infrastructure planning, you need financial systems, you need a long-term economic vision. That is why the Unity model appears aligned with infrastructure development rather than pure speculation. We have another critical piece here, that is quantum exchange. Because infrastructure tokenization cannot scale without proper digital systems. According to the broader discussions, quantum exchange is expected to provide the digital infrastructure framework supporting ecosystem operations and marketplace systems. This matters enormously because if tokenized infrastructure ecosystems are going to succeed globally, they need scalable blockchain infrastructure. They need transaction systems. They need marketplace systems. They need digital participation system. They need a secure ecosystem architecture. Without infrastructure, tokenization remains 100% complete theory. With infrastructure, tokenization becomes operational. Ladies and gentlemen, Unity, Quantum Exchange, and now PT-BAT Bank, they are making a complete, fully tokenization infrastructure. One of the biggest developments happening globally right now is the convergence between traditional finance and blockchain, and the involvement of PT-BAT Instrument Bank International. It becomes very important in this discussion because for years, crypto and banking operated almost like enemies. But that era is changing. Now we are beginning to see banks exploring tokenization. We are beginning to see institutions entering blockchain. We are beginning to see real-world assets moving on chain, infrastructure projects integrating digital finance, and traditional financial instruments interacting with blockchain systems. This is one of the clearest signs that tokenization is moving closer to institutional legitimacy. And honestly, that transition, it may reshape global finance permanently. Now, this is probably the most important part of this episode. It is, why do you believe this could become generational infrastructure? Because infrastructure outlives hype. Infrastructure outlives hype. Think about it. A meme coin may trend for 6 months, but airports survive generations. Tourism districts survive decades. Hotels operate long term. Transportation systems expand economies. Infrastructure creates permanent ecosystems. And this is why infrastructure-backed systems are so powerful. They create economic continuity. And if blockchain becomes connected to infrastructure ecosystems, producing long-term economic activity, then blockchain itself becomes far more stable and meaningful. That may ultimately define the next era for digital assets. I genuinely believe that the next decade may belong to real-world assets, may belong to infrastructure tokenization, tourism ecosystems, digital participation systems, renewable infrastructure. The world is moving beyond purely speculative crypto. Investors increasingly want utility, they want sustainability, they want revenue systems, they want infrastructure. We want long-term economic value. That is why discussions like this matter so much, because they represent blockchain evolving into something larger than trading. They represent blockchain, that it is evolving into something larger than trading. So, as I conclude today's episode, I want listeners to understand something important. The discussions around Unity token, the discussions here around quantum exchange, PT Bat Bank, and the proposed Indonesia island infrastructure ecosystem, its tokenization, they represent something much larger than another blockchain project. This is about the future of ownership, the future of participation, the future of infrastructure finance, and possibly the future of humanitarian blockchain systems connected to real economies. And of course, every major project ultimately depends on execution, transparency, regulation, sustainability, and measurable results. This is exactly the direction many people hoped blockchain would eventually move towards. Not just digital speculation, but real infrastructure that is connected to real human economies. And if systems like this succeed, then tokenization may permanently transform how the world thinks about ownership, about tourism, about investments, about infrastructures, and global economic participation. Thank you everybody for listening to the Crypto Investor Podcast. My name is Daniel Leinhardt. Are you guys excited to be a part of this island that Unity token is yet to tokenize? Are you guys want to hold tokens that represent value, that represent ownership of this island? Let me know what you think. Remember, the future of blockchain may not be built only online. It may not only be built online, it may be built into physical world itself. Bye for now. See you in the next episode.